could Egypt be doing more, and does Israel want Egypt to do more, to help solve the problem that's going on there now and going into the future? Is there something that should be done?
Okay, so we're going to talk about a place 6.9 miles long called the Philadelphia Corridor. It's the border between Gaza and the Sinai, Egypt. And up until about 6-7 years ago, the Egyptians were slowing down the supply of weapons going in, and then they've changed in the last 6-7 years. There are many tunnels. Israel's, and I don't know for sure, somewhere between 30 and 50 have been found. That Egypt are bringing in the weapons, the explosives, the missiles, whatever Hamas needs. They're also going overground through Rafah, Israel's last place. Lots of corruption, lots of chaos. Egyptian, there are reports on this, I don't know, I'll tell you secondhand, whether the president of Egypt, JCC, his family has been making money off of this. Doesn't matter. That's been their lifeline. Israel cannot give up that border unless they feel secure. So I'll tell you a couple of things. That 6.9 miles, it's going to take at least a year for Israel to really reinforce that barrier. Now, barriers we know don't work always so great, October 7th. But one part that did work. Israel built along the whole eastern side of Gaza a barrier that also went many, many meters underground to block tunnels. No tunnels came into Israel on October 7th. There were tunnels that came up close to the border, and they popped out, and then they could, go through the fence, but there were none. I learned this week from one of Netanyahu's leading military advisors that they are planning on building a border that has a barrier that goes many meters down to prevent tunnels from coming back. But who do you put there if it's not the Israelis? We don't want to put our soldiers in harm's way. The UN, that's a joke. Look what they've done in Lebanon. They had the UNIFIL there. They stopped 0 of 200,000 missiles transited from Iran. And so the Philadelphia corridor is going to take at least a year to control. So how long does Israel, before we get to the day after, how long does Israel is going to need to be in Gaza to be able to work against Hamas? And this is where you're not being told the truth. Israel's going to need 3 to 5 years. Why? Because there are still many tunnels there. They're still hiding there. People, Gazans, even if they don't want to work with Hamas, are afraid to work with anybody else because they will be tortured and killed. Israel's going to have to go in there, as they do in the West Bank every night, to fight the insurgency, the guerrilla war that's already transformed to every night. And that's the reality. And I can tell you, even from center and center-left think tanks in Israel, nothing will work in a day-after plan unless Hamas is militarily not there and Hamas is not politically part of what's going on. That doesn't mean, as in after Nazi Germany was defeated, that you can't have some people who work with the Nazis as technocrats, making the trains run, so to speak. You can have that if those people will feel safe to do that because they have the skill set. But to have a foreign group come in and do that, it's going to take generations for the Palestinians in Gaza, or for that matter, the West Bank, to change the education system so they start believing that their ultimate goal is not the destruction of Israel as opposed to empowering the people. And it's an educated people.
So the status of Hamas at this point is they're still there. It's become more of a guerrilla war than a frontal war. And we know from our own history that's fighting that is almost impossible. Yeah, exactly. So they're looking for, and unless they get help from the rest of the world, they're sort of standing by themselves there. They have to do it. They're going to continually get criticized for anything they do there. And it's just an ongoing, downward spiral, unless somehow the world can sort of get into it. And like you said, you don't want the UN to come in and do it. Egypt certainly is taking, they don't want to, they're staying on their side.
You can't blame them, because the Egyptians fear Hamas, which is part of the Muslim Brotherhood, which is the arch enemy of Egypt, If you remember in 2012, they voted in Morsi, and there was then a coup a year later with Sisi took over. But you have to remember the Egyptian populace is pretty radicalized. In that election in 2012, 80% of Egyptians voted either for the Muslim Brotherhood or worse, the Salafists.
So